I walked into my beach house that Friday evening expecting the kind of silence you can only find near the ocean. The air smelled like salt and wood polish, the curtains danced in the breeze, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could finally breathe. This place was my escape, a small house I bought years ago after my first big promotion. But before I could even unpack my bag, I heard laughter echoing through the living room. It wasn't just one or two voices. It was a crowd. I froze. I didn't invite anyone. When I turned the corner, there they were, my sister's husband, Paul, and his entire family sprawled out across my furniture as if they owned the place. Kids' toys on the floor, food on my table, music blasting. Paul saw me, frowned, and shouted, "Why is this parasite here? Get the hell out of my house." For a moment, I thought I misheard. Then I saw the way his lip curled. He meant every word. I smiled, not because it didn't hurt, but because I knew something he didn't. I simply said, "Sure, I'll leave," grabbed my keys, and walked out. What he didn't realize was that the beach house wasn't some shared family vacation spot, it was mine, bought under my name, deed and all. As I sat in my car, the humiliation burned deep. I replayed his words again and again. Parasite, that's what he called me after everything I'd done for them. I'd helped them with bills, lent them money when Paul lost his job, even babysat his kids when they went on vacation. And now, he stood in my house and threw me out. I could have gone straight back in and thrown him out myself, but I didn't. I wanted this to sting. I wanted him to feel what he made me feel, small, powerless, and disposable. So I made a plan. I called the local police and asked for a wellness check at my address. I calmly explained that some people seemed to have broken in, and I wasn't sure if they were supposed to be there. The officer on the phone took notes, said they'd send a unit right away. But that wasn't all. I also called my lawyer. I'd had the house insured and registered under my business name for tax reasons, which meant any unauthorized guests could legally be considered trespassers. While the police headed there, I parked a few streets away where I could see the house from a distance. I could already picture Paul's smug face fading when blue and red lights flashed through the windows. It didn't take long. Within minutes, 2 patrol cars pulled up. I saw the officers knock on the door, then step inside. There was shouting, confusion, and finally, the sound of Paul's voice turning from arrogance to panic. His wife, my sister, looked horrified, trying to explain. The officers escorted them all out to the front yard while they confirmed ownership. One of them called me to verify the situation, and I drove back, calm as ever. When I arrived, Paul's face twisted in disbelief. "You called the cops on us?" he shouted. I handed the officer my ID, title deed, and insurance documents. The officer nodded, turned to Paul, and said, "Sir, this property is legally owned by him. You'll need to leave immediately." Watching Paul pack up his car in silence was pure satisfaction. The same man who had screamed at me hours earlier now couldn't meet my eyes. My sister tried to talk to me, but I stayed quiet. I didn't need to say anything. I didn't need to yell or argue. The house itself had spoken for me. When they finally drove off, I stood on the porch, listening to the waves crash in the distance. The silence returned, just like I wanted. Later that night, my sister called. She apologized through tears, saying Paul had told her he'd gotten permission from me weeks ago. That was a lie, of course. He wanted to show off to his family, act like the beach house was his. I told her I wasn't angry at her, but I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. That man had disrespected me in a way that crossed every line. I told her not to worry about me anymore, and that I needed time to let things go. She agreed, quietly crying before hanging up. Over the next few days, I thought a lot about what had happened. I realized Paul wasn't just a rude man, he was the kind of person who believed kindness was weakness. The kind who takes advantage of others until they finally push back. When the story spread through our extended family, people were divided. Some said I overreacted, others said Paul deserved worse. I didn't care. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the quiet one who let everyone walk over me. I felt free. A week later, I found out Paul had been embarrassed at his job when someone mentioned the incident in a group chat. Apparently, his coworkers now called him the beach bum. He tried to defend himself, but it only made things worse. I didn't have to lift a finger. Karma had picked up where I left off. The next time I went back to the beach house, I noticed something. The place felt different, not because of what happened, but because it finally belonged to me in every sense. No more pretending to be the accommodating brother-in-law. No more letting arrogance slide. I poured myself a drink, sat by the window, and watched the waves roll in. Sometimes revenge doesn't come from shouting or fighting back. Sometimes it comes from letting people expose themselves. Paul thought he could humiliate me in front of his family, but in the end, he humiliated himself in front of everyone who mattered. If you've ever been in a situation where someone tried to take what's yours, remember, silence and patience can be your loudest weapons. Karma doesn't miss. And when it finally hits, it hits harder than any words you could ever say. If this story made you smile, hit that like button and tell me in the comments what you would have done in my place. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that prove sometimes, the best revenge is just letting life do the talking.